My girlfriend's F27 boss M34 has made some comments about me M25 that make me feel disrespected, especially her response. How should I approach this? I am a PhD student who has been dating an executive assistant for 5 months. It's going well. We have a lot of fun. We're both crazy busy, so frequently our dates are Chinese food and Redbox movies, but it's all good. She goes to a lot of events with her boss, business dinners and charities, and basically anything where he's too lazy to bring a notepad and makes her give up her finite free time to accompany him. I get invited to some, partially due to my desire to actually see my GF, and, due to school and work, went to the first last weekend, a dinner at his house, a casual business mixer type deal. I was underdressed. My definition of business casual was navy slacks and a button-up. By the time I showed up, a little late, admittedly. It was too late to stop by my place and fix this. Oh well. I'm confident, I don't care. But she seems to and is slightly irritated. We get there, and I meet her boss, who's kind of smug and a bit of an ass but seems nice enough. Right away, she asks, "Rob, do you mind if Cohen borrows a tie and jacket?" I didn't relay the dress code. He says, "That's unlike you. But sure, the jacket will be too big in the shoulders, but go ahead." She leads me up to the guy's bedroom and goes right into his closet and grabs some stuff. That night, everyone basically ignored me. She didn't seem to notice. She was too busy backing up everything this guy said and mingling with coworkers. She apologized later, said she can get a bit obsessive about work. I understand. Vowed to never go back, and that was that. Last night I was over and using her computer for some assignments. Mine is down. I go to send myself an email of my work. Hers is up and I figure whatever will work just as good. Until I notice the subject of one is your boyfriend. I open it. It's from the boss. "Boss, your boyfriend has my favorite tie. Procure it promptly. You would choose that one out of the 100 other ones. Winch. GF. It is already back in your closet. I can't help it, he looks nice and red tongue sticking out. What did you think of him anyways? Approve? Boss. He looked like a little kid playing dress up in my clothes. But in all seriousness, he is a little kid. He's still in school and in an immature place. He's not husband material. You want kids in a house in a couple off years. Date someone who can give you that. Date a man. GF. Thanks for being honest. I value your opinion. Husbands aren't exactly growing on trees though. That was the last. I left soon after and haven't talked to her about it. I feel completely disrespected. At the same time, I read her email, which is a no-no. How should I approach this? TLDR, my girlfriend's boss has made some comments about me, calling me a kid and saying I wasn't husband material that make me feel disrespected, especially her response, where she basically agreed. How should I approach this? Update 1. I followed the advice, some of the advice, and told her how I stumbled across it and all that jazz. She was upset I read her work emails, but understood why I wasn't happy with what I saw. She explained that her boss is more than a boss, he's also a friend, and collectively they've been through a lot together. That in the 3 years they've worked together, they've each lost a parent. Her father was estranged from her family, and none of her siblings would go with her to the funeral, but he volunteered and helped her handle it, and have climbed the corporate ladder together. She explained that it was private, the same as me asking my friend on FB what they thought of her, and her reading it. So, I'm a little uncomfortable with it, and their closeness in general. I also told her it irritated me that she didn't specify business casual meant in her world. She said that a button-up would have been fine, but I wore a plaid one, a nice plaid button-up, not lumberjack, and that was too casual. She also told me she was mad at me for being late, that it's important to Rob that when he hosts she is early, and on time is late, and late is very late. We didn't deal with the big issues, babies and marriage, because it's just too damned soon, and went on our way being happy this week. Until last night, around 2 a.m., boss calls and says he's sick. She needs to check up on him. Blah, blah. She is about to leave. I express my discomfort, and she reluctantly invites me. Tells me to keep clear of him and just wait. It shouldn't be long. And she'll use my presence to avoid staying long. We get there, and he's in the front room. Can't avoid him seeing me. He's in his underwear, which I'm not happy about, and is obviously fairly sick and furious about being sick. GF is ridiculously tender with him, rubbing his hair and telling him how they can readjust most of his meetings. Except for one, and they'll make it a phone meeting. They'll work from home tomorrow. She'll go get everything in the morning and just bring it to his place. Blah, blah. He makes eye contact. I'm hovering as close to the door as I can, feeling for all the fudging world like I'm the interloper, and almost looks smug at me. I swear to God he did. Then he asks if they can have wonton soup for lunch and fortune cookies, like usual. She says of course, and then brings him to his room and fudging tucks him in, I assume, after giving him some medicine. We leave and get into it. That's just too close for me. She needs to draw lines if she wants to keep dating me. She accuses me of just being jealous and uncomfortable. Says Rob has never made a pass at her and never will. Fight gets a little ugly and insults fly. I say she all but gets paid to suck his stick. She says the only difference between me and a college freshman is I can buy beer. And it's over. This all occurs in his driveway. She gets out, says she'll just stay here. If he wasn't too sick to get it up, I imagine they probably had intimacy. TLDR, my girlfriend's boss has made some comments about me that make me feel disrespected, especially her response. We talked about and resolved it somewhat. Until he got sick, she went to mend him and was rubbing his hair and obviously being overly attached as he watched me smugly. Get in a fight, ends poorly, we break up. She marches into his place. Relevant comments. Commenter. Holy shit, she has gone crazy town. You should stay super far away from that. I know it's hard, but I have a feeling you're going to get over this one quick and laugh it off in a couple of months. Also, they climbed the corporate ladder together. She's a glorified secretary. She's climbing something, but it's no corporate ladder. OP. I mean, when he gets promoted, her pay grade does go up, and he chose to have her come with him, instead of opting for someone with more experience or whatever. I hope you're right. I was pretty pissed and all righteously angry, but now that is fading, I am kind of bummed out. She was a good person, funny and smart and sexy as hell, and we spent 5 months together. I don't want to miss her. Commenter. The difference between you and college freshmen is that a college freshman would have tackled him to the ground and pummeled his face in when he answered the door in his underwear. OP. I didn't realize he was just in underwear at first, and by then I could tell he was very sick, couldn't keep down water, etc., and less inclined to be aggressive. She has a key, and he was on the couch using a throw blanket thing. Commenter. Okay, I've never possessed the key to a man's home who was not penetrating me on a regular basis. I also never made 2 a.m. house calls to care for a man who was not penetrating me on a regular basis. I don't claim to speak for every woman in the world, but this has been my experience. OP. She's his personal assistant, so she drops off dry cleaning, walks his dog sometimes, that sort of thing. Commenter. Okay, I've never possessed the key to a man's home who was not penetrating me on a regular basis. I also never made 2 a.m. house calls to care for a man who was not penetrating me on a regular basis. I don't claim to speak for every woman in the world, but this has been my experience. I was an executive assistant for 9 years, and this is also my experience. Your now ex-GF and her boss have a weird fudging relationship. Update 2. Well, I've been drowning my sorrows in Newcastles and biographies when I got a text from my ex-girlfriend. I obviously hoped she was begging for forgiveness and pleading me to come back to her, both because I missed her and I wanted to turn her down. I'm a complicated fool of a man. She was not. I wanted to let you know I'm sorry for what I said. Once you compared my entire career to that of a prostitute, I lost my temper and said a lot of things I regret. I hate to end on a bad note because we were both hurt and lashed out. I also wanted to let you know you were right about Rob, just because I would want to know if I were you, and you deserve to know you weren't crazy. I didn't think he felt the same way, and I resigned myself to trying to love someone else. I didn't do a good job. How could I when he was constantly there? But then it turns out he's felt the same way all along. He just didn't think he could cross the line. It had to be me because Rob felt as my superior there was no appropriate way to confess his love. 2 years of us being stupid and stubborn, but we are finally together. We are hashing through it with HR now, and they're not giving us any problems. Sorry we put you in the middle of our personal games. I wish you all the best. So Fudge. She is going to live happily ever after. Never loved me, and I wasted 5 months. Gonna become a monk now, Reddit. TLDR, they are living happily ever after. I am drinking Newcastle and exploring the possibility of eternal celibacy. Edit. I don't want to do an update because there is no reason to do one, but I would like to just say that I don't begrudge her happiness or want her to catch on fire or anything like that. I'm a little bummed out that it ended this way, because despite this, she was a fun girlfriend. We did a lot of fun stuff together and she even read it, so we had a lot to talk about, and she is extremely smart. Honestly, she does a lot of her boss's work and gives great throwback. If it weren't for her fudged up family, she would have gone on to be an executive. Not an assistant, but I'm not getting drunk or wasting away. I am just having a few cold ones and playing video games because I'm an introvert, and this is how I cheer myself up. Anyways, my point is I'm not a hero and she isn't the villain. We never said we loved each other or anything. I saw it maybe going in that direction, unless I end up teaching in Nebraska or something. I said a shitty thing to her and it all unwinded from there, and I did start the shit in that conversation. Now that it's done, I realize that. I'm a little disappointed and a little bitter, but I don't hate her or want her to lose her job or get crabs. I just kind of want everyone to be happy and maybe to get laid this weekend. Not that we'll be friends, I just don't have time to hate her. Thanks for all the advice. Relevant comments. Commenter. I don't know the whole story, but giving all those details is so very unnecessary. What a bitch move. It would have sufficed to say your suspicions were right. I am sorry I lied to you. I hope we can be friends. Instead of delving into the details of her romantic affairs with someone else while knowing she broke your heart. You shouldn't have compared her to a prostitute. Opie. Yay. Looking back, that's why we broke up that night. Not that we should have stayed together because obviously it wasn't going to work out. But when you start a conversation with, "Can't you see he basically pays you to suck his stick?" Most people aren't willing to be constructive. And that's when she said shitty things and I said shitty things, and she decided she would rather not drive home with me and decided to stay there. And they talked and decided they were in love, or whatever the kids call it. So, it was a pretty spiraled, fudged up night. And I was still angry when I wrote my last update, which might be a tad biased. Update 3, alright. Reddit. Buckle up because things have gotten even crazier, and I didn't think that was possible. Remember how I said I was thinking about becoming a monk? Well, turns out I'm nowhere near Zen yet because the saga continues. So, after my ex dropped that delightful, I'm in love with Rob Baum. I did the usual post-breakup spiral video games, beers, trying to avoid any song with acoustic guitars. I even tried to go on a date. Spoiler alert, it was terrible. She spent most of the evening texting someone who I'm pretty sure was her ex, so you can imagine how much fun that was. But here's where things get real. I get a call from an unknown number while I'm mid-binge on some true crime documentary about a guy who disappears in the wilderness. I answer because, why not? It's Rob. Yeah, Rob. Now, before I tell you what went down, let's all take a moment to appreciate how insane it is that he called me. The guy who stole my girlfriend disrespected me at every turn and is now probably making wonton soup for two while I'm sitting alone with a six-pack. He says he just wants to talk, which, after I stopped laughing, I realized could only be a bad idea. But curiosity got the better of me, so I told him to go ahead. He launches into this bizarre speech about how he didn't mean to come between me and my ex, how he's not the bad guy, and how feelings just happen. Oh, and apparently the whole wearing his tie and jacket thing was some sort of power move. Yeah, power move. He admitted that he thought it'd be funny to see me in his clothes because it made him feel superior. He literally said that. I nearly choked on my beer. Who admits something like that? I'm sitting there, stunned, while Rob keeps talking. He tells me that, despite everything, he respects me for how I handled the breakup and that maybe we can be cool. At this point, I had to stop him. Cool? Cool? The guy who practically turned my girlfriend into his personal nursemaid at 2 a.m. is now asking if we can be brothers? So I ask him point blank, why are you really calling me? And this is where things get interesting. He says get ready for this, he's calling because he's worried about my ex. He says she's been acting strange ever since they officially got together. Apparently, she's been super distant, like she's not as into the relationship as he thought she'd be. She's still doing all the personal assistant stuff, but the spark he thought was there? Gone. Now, he's starting to wonder if maybe he was the rebound. Rebound? This dude, who was smugly tucking himself into bed while my girlfriend rubbed his hair, is suddenly worried that he's her second choice? I almost laughed out loud, but I kept it together and asked, why are you telling me this? What do you expect me to do? And his response? He says, you know her better than anyone right now. Maybe you can talk to her, help her figure out what she really wants. I hang up. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? I'm not Dr. Phil, and I'm definitely not getting involved in whatever weird mess they've created. But here's the kicker. About an hour later, I get a text from her. No, hey, how's it going? No, sorry about the whole destroying your faith in relationships thing. She just says, can we talk? I'm sitting there staring at my phone, half expecting the Twilight Zone music to start playing. And the worst part? I'm tempted. I mean, I did care about her, still do, in a way. 5 months of dating doesn't just disappear overnight. But something about this whole situation feels off. Like maybe this whole thing with Rob isn't what she thought it would be, and now she's second-guessing everything. Or maybe she just wants to clear the air, but do I really want to hear about her romantic struggles with the guy who practically wore a sign that said, I'm better than you? So, Reddit, here I am, sitting with my phone, debating whether or not I should respond. Part of me wants closure, but another part of me is like, what if this just pulls me back into more drama? I haven't replied yet, and honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, and whichever way I jump, it's going to get messy. Do I respond and try to figure out what's going on with her? Or do I just block her and finally let this whole thing die? TLDR, Rob called me to say he's worried about my ex now that they're together. She texted me an hour later asking if we can talk. Now I'm torn between getting some kind of closure or running far away from this whole mess. Update 4. So, after Rob's bizarre phone call and my ex's cryptic, "Can we talk?" text, I sat on it for a while. I didn't respond immediately because, frankly, I was torn between wanting answers and not wanting to walk right back into the dumpster fire. But, being the fool that I am, curiosity won. I texted her back. "Me? Talk about what?" Her reply came almost instantly. "Can I come over?" Now, before I could think this through, I said yes. Yep, just like that. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know what the hell was going on. Maybe it was a weak moment, or maybe I just wanted to see if she'd admit to how messed up everything had gotten. So, a couple of hours later, there's a knock at my door. I open it, and there she is, standing there like nothing's changed, except everything has. She looked tired. Like the whole living happily ever after with Rob thing wasn't as magical as she had made it sound in that text. But I wasn't about to feel sorry for her. I stayed cool. She steps inside, and I can tell right away that whatever she's about to say is going to be heavy. She sits down, and before I can even ask what this is all about, she just blurts it out. "I broke up with Rob." I was not expecting that. I didn't say anything at first because, honestly, I was still processing. But she kept going, like she'd been rehearsing this speech in her head for days. After everything that happened with us, I thought being with him would make sense. It felt like the right thing. But once it was official, I realized how wrong it was. He wasn't what I thought he'd be. He became possessive, controlling, like overnight. I just stared at her, waiting for the inevitable, but I made a mistake. "Take me back, please." But it didn't come. He started getting weirdly jealous of you. He'd bring you up in the most random ways, asking if I still had feelings for you, wondering if I was comparing the two of you. He even made me delete all the pictures of us from my phone. He kept trying to prove he was the better choice, but it just made me realize how much I'd screwed up. At this point, I'm still quiet, but inside I'm screaming, "I told you so." I mean, what did she expect? The guy practically treated her like a personal servant, but she kept going. I thought I loved him, but the truth is, I think I was just comfortable. We were close for so long, and it felt like the natural next step. But once we crossed that line, it wasn't what I wanted. Not really. And then, here it comes. The moment I knew was coming, but was still dreading. "I made a mistake with you. I'm sorry for how everything went down. I didn't see it then, but you were right about Rob. He's not the man I thought he was, and honestly, you deserved better than how I treated you. I don't expect anything from you, but I needed to tell you this. Now, I know what you're thinking. Here's where OP caves and takes her back, right? Wrong." I looked at her, took a deep breath, and said, "I appreciate you telling me this, but it's too late. You made your choice, and I can't be your backup plan. I'm not here to fix the mess you and Rob created." Her face fell. I could see the regret in her eyes, but I wasn't about to let that sway me. I've been through too much drama in the past few weeks to throw myself back into the fire. She nodded, clearly not expecting me to say that. "I understand," she said quietly. "I just wanted you to know." And then, just like that, she left. No grand exit, no dramatic goodbye. She just walked out the door, and I stood there for a few minutes, wondering if that was really it. But it was. Over the next few days, I didn't hear from her again. No follow-up texts, no midnight phone calls. It was like she vanished. Rob? Haven't heard from him either. It's like the universe finally decided to give me a break. And honestly, I feel free. Like a weight's been lifted off my chest. The whole situation with Rob, the jealousy, the late-night drama, it's all behind me now. I've spent too much time worrying about what other people think of me, what my ex thought of me, what Rob thought of me. But none of that matters.